Hello! Welcome back to my channel. Today's video was sparked by a recent email conversation I've had with a reader. About a month ago, a reader who'd read my book Bilingual, Trilingual Parenting 101 got in touch with me with a lovely email, and we discussed quite a few topics in our correspondence. She raised a very interesting question. How do we deal with negative reactions from other people? It's something I've also addressed in my book, but I thought I'd make this video today to share with you some of the points I've made in my book, in addition to some other thoughts I've had on this subject. So, if you're a parent raising bilingual, trilingual or multilingual children, and you've had experience of negative reactions from other people, or you might be worried about the possibility of this happening to you, keep watching to find out more. So, let's start with my reader's specific concerns. She lives in Germany and is raising her child to be trilingual in Spanish, Polish and German. Her child is fluent in all three languages at this stage. In her email, she wanted to know what's the best way to act around other families who are not raising their child to be bilingual or trilingual, especially if they speak the same language as you. And this is linked to another concern that she has. She said that she sometimes senses a lot of envy from other families who may not have had as much success raising their children to be multilingual. I can definitely relate to her concerns. I know firsthand that raising trilingual children can be a bit, to put it delicately, socially awkward. And this feeling can be especially acute when you're around parents who speak your target languages, which is, in our case, Chinese and Russian, particularly in cases where the children only speak English. Like the reader, I also feel a bit self-conscious in this sort of situation, because naturally you don't want to make the other parent feel bad or inadequate in some way. It can just all feel a bit awkward, and there's just no rule book setting out the etiquette for parents in our situation. And sometimes negative reactions towards multilingual families can take a much more sinister form. A Polish mum from my children's school, whose son speaks Polish at home with his parents, told me that she tends to speak to her son in English when they're out and about, because in her words, that looks just better. The implication being that she's less likely to get judged if she speaks English in public. Another Polish mom told me that people once gave her dirty looks for speaking to her daughter in Polish. And that was in a Waitrose store in London, for goodness sake. For those of you who are not in the UK, Waitrose is a posh supermarket chain that mostly serves the affluent middle class. But back to the point I was trying to make. Sadly, even in the developed world today, racism and xenophobia can play a part in how people react to parents speaking to their children in foreign languages, or at least affect the perception of such parents, making them reluctant to speak their languages in public. So I'm really glad that my reader got in touch and raised these very important concerns. They really underline the wider social factors at play when raising bilingual or multilingual children. Now, let me share with you my own experience in terms of people's reactions. I've been raising my children to be trilingual for 7 years. Very fortunately for us, we've never had any overtly negative reactions from people. If anything, people's reactions have actually been overwhelmingly positive and supportive. That being said, a few people have made comments that perhaps suggest an element of envy. I don't know, it's hard to say, and I certainly don't think that we've achieved something, so remarkable that would arouse envy. But let me give you an example. I once met a Russian mum in our local playground. When she heard our children speaking Russian to my husband, she gave what I can only describe as a somewhat bitter smile, and then she went on to explain that her child was totally bilingual before starting school, but gradually lost her Russian. At the time, our kids were still in nursery. The mum said to me repeatedly, "Just wait till your child starts school. You just wait and see." I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but her reaction seemed to me to suggest a form of envy. It was almost like she was willing us to fail. So yeah, I imagine the reader who got in touch with me might have experienced something similar. And it's not a nice feeling, you know, that feeling that you've made someone feel bad about themselves and feel envious towards you, even though you haven't actually done anything wrong. In the next section, I'll go through some strategies and methods to help parents deal with negative reactions from others. Now, before we continue, if you've enjoyed this video so far, please do consider subscribing to this channel and hitting that like button. I do invest a lot of time into creating useful video content that parents can hopefully gain value from while working full-time as a freelance translator. By subscribing and hitting that like button, you will really help my channel grow and help other parents like you find us. Thank you so much. So in my book, I've analysed why people might behave negatively towards parents who are trying to raise bilingual or multilingual kids. I think there are three main reasons. Firstly, some people might just feel uncomfortable around others speaking a foreign language. The second reason is that some people who have been influenced by certain misconceptions about bilingualism might have genuine concerns about the parents confusing their children with more than one language. And the third reason is what my reader referred to in her email. Some people might just feel envious about what you're doing. What are some ways we can deal with such reactions? I'll suggest some coping strategies and methods here. In the case of people being concerned about you confusing your child, I think it's usually best to just acknowledge their concern and say something along the lines of, yeah, it's not easy, you know, speaking X number of languages, but I think he or she is doing okay. Then you can politely explain that your child needs to learn X language to communicate with relatives. Usually, people will back off and stop commenting on what you're doing if you do that. And then to address my reader's question about how best to behave around families who are not raising the kids to be bilingual for whatever reason, and how to minimize envy. My approach is to be very humble and low-key. Ultimately though, you simply cannot control how people feel about you. You literally haven't done anything wrong, so try not to feel bad about making other people feel bad, if that makes sense. As long as you are not actively boasting about your kids' achievements, I don't think we should worry too much about what people think, as that's something that's beyond our control. However, if the negative reaction came from your child's school or childcare setting, you need to find out if there are any genuine reasons for their concern. Is your child lagging behind in terms of their social or academic development? If not, it's fine to continue what you're doing. And when it comes to the racist, xenophobic side of things, I must admit I do not have any useful advice to give to parents in those situations. I'm really sorry if that's something that you're experiencing. If that's something that you've experienced yourself, please do share in the comment section below, as it would be very interesting and useful for me and others watching this video to hear about your experience. I hope today's video was helpful in addressing concerns you might have about potential negative reactions from other people. It's an important topic, and I feel like it's something that we do need to confront and discuss. What do you think? Have you ever had negative comments from other people? And if so, how did you deal with them? As always, thank you very much for watching this video. Please comment, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!